I thought death would bring peace, but it only opened old wounds. After my grandfather's funeral, a hidden message changed everything I believed about my family. I'm Emily Carter, a 29-year-old school nurse from Ohio. All my life, I trusted my stepmom more than anyone, until the day my grandfather's voice came back to haunt us. The letter in the lamp, the house felt empty after the funeral. I walked into grandfather's living room, the place where he used to sit and read the newspaper every morning. Dust covered the furniture, and the air smelled like old wood and sadness. I picked up a rag and started cleaning, moving slowly, trying to make sense of the silence. My hands brushed against the lamp on the side table. The shade slipped, and something rattled inside. I froze, heart pounding. I reached in and pulled out a sealed envelope. My name was written on it in grandfather's shaky handwriting. I stared at it, my fingers trembling. What could he have left for me? I sat down on the couch, the envelope heavy in my lap. I didn't want to open it, but I couldn't stop myself. I tore it open, my breath caught in my throat. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded neatly. My eyes scanned the words, but I couldn't make sense of them. My hands shook as I read it again. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. I looked around the room, but there was no one there. Just me, the silence, and the letter that changed everything. She knows the truth. I tore open the envelope, my hands shaking. The note was short, just a few lines, but each word hit me like a punch. She knows the truth about your father's death. My knees went weak. I sat down hard on the couch. The paper crumpled in my fist. The she had to be Linda, my stepmom. How could she be part of my father's death? My father died in a car accident when I was just a kid. Everyone said it was a tragic accident. But now, grandfather's words made me question everything. I read the note again, my mind racing. Was it possible? Could Linda have known something? I remembered how she always acted so calm, so in control. She was always the one who comforted me, told me everything would be okay. But now, I wasn't so sure. I looked at the note, my heart pounding. I needed answers. I needed to know what really happened. I stood up, my legs unsteady. I had to talk to someone, but who could I trust? I walked to the kitchen, my mind spinning. I poured myself a glass of water, but my hands were shaking so much I spilled it. I wiped the counter, trying to calm down. I looked out the window, but the world outside felt different now. Everything felt different. I knew I couldn't ignore this. I had to find out the truth, no matter what it cost me. The family dinner trap. I gathered the family for dinner that night. Linda smiled sweetly, her eyes cold. I watched her hands tremble when I mentioned Grandpa's message. My stepbrother avoided my gaze. Something unspoken hung heavy between us. The table was set, the food steaming, but no one was hungry. I sat down, my heart pounding. I looked at Linda, trying to read her face. She passed the potatoes, her hands steady now, but I could see the tension in her jaw. I took a deep breath. I found a letter from Grandpa, I said, my voice shaking. Everyone looked up. Linda's smile faded. What did it say? She asked, her voice calm. I hesitated. He said someone knows the truth about Dad's death, I said. Linda's eyes narrowed. What truth? She asked. I looked at her, my heart racing. I don't know, I said, but I'm going to find out. My stepbrother looked down at his plate, his face pale. Linda forced a smile. You're imagining things, she said. Grandpa was old. He didn't know what he was talking about. I looked around the table, but no one met my eyes. The silence was heavy, thick with secrets. I knew I couldn't trust anyone. I had to find the truth on my own. Hidden in the attic, I found an old photo of Dad and Grandpa arguing. Behind it, a key was taped to the frame. I searched the attic for what it opened. A small metal box waited under dusty blankets. The truth felt closer than ever. I climbed the stairs, my heart pounding. The attic was dark, filled with old furniture and boxes. I turned on the light, the bulb flickering. I looked around, my eyes scanning the room. I found the photo on a shelf, tucked behind a stack of books. I pulled it out, my hands trembling. Dad and Grandpa were yelling at each other, their faces red with anger. I turned the photo over. A small key was taped to the back. I held it in my hand, my heart racing. What did it open? I searched the attic, my eyes scanning every corner. I found a small metal box under a pile of blankets. I picked it up, my hands shaking. I inserted the key, my breath caught in my throat. The lock clicked open. I lifted the lid, my heart pounding. Inside was a cassette and a folded letter. I stared at them, my mind racing. What secrets were hidden here? I knew I had to listen to the tape, but I was afraid of what I might hear. I took a deep breath. I had to know the truth, no matter what it cost me, the tape recorder. Inside the box was a cassette and a folded letter. The tape crackled with Grandpa's voice. He accused Linda of blackmail. He said my father never meant to take his own life. The room spun as everything I knew shattered. I sat down on the dusty floor, the cassette in my hand. I looked around for a tape recorder. I found one on a shelf, covered in dust. I wiped it off, my hands shaking. I inserted the cassette, my heart pounding. The tape crackled to life. Grandpa's voice filled the room, shaky but clear. "Linda knows the truth," he said. "She blackmailed me. She made me keep quiet about your father's death." I stared at the recorder, my mind racing. "Your father didn't take his own life," Grandpa continued. "He was murdered." I dropped the recorder, my hands trembling. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. My father was murdered? By Linda? I looked at the letter, my hands shaking. I read it, my heart pounding. Grandpa wrote that Linda had threatened to ruin the family if he told the truth. I felt sick. Everything I knew was a lie. I stood up, my legs unsteady. I had to confront Linda. I had to make her pay. I picked up the cassette and the letter, my hands shaking. I knew I couldn't ignore this. I had to find out the truth, no matter what it cost me. Confronting the Queen, I barely slept that night. The cassette kept replaying in my head, Grandpa's tired voice, his warning, his pain. By morning, I'd made a decision. I dressed quietly and drove to Linda's house. She opened the door, all smiles, pretending nothing was wrong. "Tea?" she asked, as if I were a child again, visiting for cookies. I nodded, waiting until we sat at her spotless kitchen table. The smell of lavender and mint filled the air, masking the tension. Her delicate hand trembled when she poured. I reached into my bag, pulled out the old cassette player, and set it between us. Her smile froze. "Do you know what this is?" I asked softly. She didn't answer. Her eyes darted toward it like it was a gun. I pressed play. Grandpa's voice filled the room, accusing her of blackmail, greed, and lies. I watched every flicker on her face. The tea in her cup rippled. When the recording ended, she whispered, "He didn't understand. Your father made his choices." "What choices?" I demanded. "Did you threaten him?" She slammed her cup down, spilling tea across the table. "You think you know what it was like raising a family with no money? You think your grandfather wasn't cruel?" Her words were sharp, desperate. I saw fear hiding beneath her anger. That's when I knew. She was guilty, and I wasn't leaving until she paid for it, the secret account. The next day, I couldn't shake my rage. Grandpa's words echoed through my mind. I needed proof. I drove to my father's old office at the clinic, where his computer still sat in storage. The password came easily, his favorite quote. My hands shook as I searched through years of hidden files. Then I found it, a folder named Linda. Inside were receipts, transfers, and paperwork for a secret account bearing her name. The dates hit like a knife. Each deposit lined up with the weeks before and after Dad's death. Thousands of dollars transferred quietly. My chest tightened as realization hit. She'd taken everything, even his peace. I printed everything out, page by page, while my hands trembled. Grandpa must have known, and that's why she turned on him, too. I leaned back, exhausted but alive with fury. "You won't bury the truth again," I whispered. That night, I called an old friend who worked in IT to help me trace the money trail. What he found made my stomach twist. Linda had moved the funds into a joint account with my stepbrother. My stepbrother, who had sat at that dinner table pretending to know nothing. Everything was unraveling fast. The cemetery meeting. It was raining when Mark, my stepbrother, called. "Please, meet me," he said, his voice shaking. I agreed, the sound of his panic stirring both suspicion and pity. We met at the cemetery near Grandpa's fresh grave. The ground was slick, and our umbrellas kept bumping in the wind. He looked pale, haunted. "I can't keep this anymore," he said. "Linda killed him. She made Dad believe he'd lose everything. Grandpa found out and tried to expose her. She said it would ruin the family." He sobbed, words spilling out like years of poison. I stayed silent, recording every word on my phone, the small red light blinking in my pocket. "She made you help her?" I asked finally. He nodded miserably. "I didn't mean to. I was scared. She said she'd cut me off if I didn't." I turned away as lightning flashed across the sky. "You made your choice," I said quietly, Now I'll make mine." He reached for me, but I pulled back. "Emily, please, don't destroy her," he begged. But I was already walking toward my car, the recording safe in my coat. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was justice, the video reveal. 2 nights later, I gathered everyone in Grandpa's living room, the same one where the funeral's quiet had hung like a curse. Linda arrived late, eyes red but defiant. Mark sat beside her, barely meeting my eyes. I turned on the laptop connected to the TV and pressed play. The video filled the screen, Mark's voice crying, Linda's name whispered in fear, every secret finally out loud. "Where did you get that?" Linda screamed. "From the truth you kept buried," I said. The family gasped, whispers filling the room. Aunt May covered her mouth. My uncle rose to his feet, face ashen. Linda stood, shaking all over. "You ruined this family," she shouted. "No," I said firmly. "You did." The knock on the door echoed. 2 officers stepped in, their voices calm, practiced. As they led her out, she turned one last time. "He left me nothing," she hissed. "You'll see how it feels." Her words lingered long after the sirens faded. I noticed Grandpa's portrait above the mantel, his eyes kind as ever. It almost felt like he was finally at peace. For the first time, I could breathe. What he left behind a month later, autumn arrived quietly. The leaves outside turned to fire and gold. I carried Grandpa's ashes to the old oak at the edge of our property, the one where he used to read to me as a kid. The wind was soft, almost kind. "It's over now," I whispered, scattering the ashes. The secrets that once haunted our home were gone, replaced by stillness. Mark moved away. Aunt May stopped calling Linda's name in shameful whispers. The news spread fast. Greed ruins hearts faster than time ever could. Back home, I opened Grandpa's letter one final time. His handwriting trembled, yet gentle. "Forgive, but never forget. Truth is heavy, Emily, but it frees you when you carry it with grace." I closed my eyes and smiled through tears. "I'll forgive," I whispered, "but I'll never forget." I looked at the photograph on the mantel, Dad, Grandpa, and me. Despite everything, love lived on between the lines of loss. For the first time in years, our home felt like home again.